Most of you live in the real world, I think. And in the real world, most people don't understand these concepts we're talking about, and they don't understand this type of career. So they're gonna influence you and sort of promote self-doubt. Some of these people are people that you love. Some of these people are your friends, your family, whatever. But they say stupid-ass things that make you doubt yourself. And if you listen to them too much, you're gonna start making bad decisions, habitual bad decisions. The question is, why do they do this? Are they that unsupportive? Are they hoping that you fail because they hate you? In most cases, the answer is no, right? Why do they do this? Christians seem to have all the answers today. Why do they do this?
Well, that's what makes their argument so powerful, is it's usually people that really truly love and care about you, and they're looking out for what they think is your best interest. But they don't understand your mindset, and they don't understand your heart.
And that's the tough thing about this. Most of the people that we're sort of bashing right now, they're actually good people, and they actually do have good intentions. The problem is that they're not qualified to give you advice on stuff, especially this. But it's interesting how so many people, they try to give you advice on this particular business, this particular industry, this particular career path, and yet they've never really accomplished anything of any great magnitude being an entrepreneur. It makes absolutely no sense. So again, the question is, why are they so damn negative? I'll tell you why. When you really go for something, when you really aspire to achieve greatness, you become like a mirror that they have to look into every time they see you. And what happens is, I don't care what a person says about them not wanting money or not needing to be rich or whatever, they're all a bunch of liars. But whatever they say about that particular issue, every time they see you really going for it, it makes them feel ashamed of themselves. Because deep down, there's something in the human spirit where we all dream about achieving greatness. And this is what happens usually with your so-called friends, is they go the opposite way and they try to talk you out of it. Because if you give up on aspiring to achieve your dream, that makes it okay for them to hide out in their little mediocre world, in their chickenness of not going for it. And the more they see you going for it, they just feel bad about themselves. But they want it. And because they want it, and they're not going for it, seeing you go for it just highlights the fact that they're chickens, and no one wants to feel like a coward. And I don't know if any of you guys can relate to this, but some of you guys have parents and boyfriends and girlfriends and family members and or whatever that are trying to talk you out of really going for something. And it's negative. And if you listen to it too much, they will successfully talk you out of going for it. So that's why you have to protect that dream. You got to keep your dream real close to your heart, because they'll come and snatch it. Easily they'll come and snatch it. One of the things I want to talk to you guys about this morning is about this concept of greatness. Okay? Most people say they want to be the best. Well, I want to be the best. I want to be number one. I want to be, the best, the best, the best. I want to be the best in the office. I want to be close, more premium than anyone in the office. I want to be number one. Okay? I'm telling you, that's a horrible goal. That's a great outcome, but it's a horrible goal. And I'll tell you why. The reason why is greatness doesn't have anything to do with being number one. Being number one has to do with comparing yourself to someone else, which you have absolutely no control over. Greatness is 100% in your control. So the question is, what is greatness? When you see somebody and say, that person has achieved greatness, and everyone's got their own definition of greatness, but to me, it's just being able to have the guts to push through adversity and not giving up. Now, to me, that's the toughest part emotionally about what we do. Is when you get bummed out, or you get rejected, or you have some idiot that's outside this office that's trying to counsel you and talk you out of this type of career. You don't take the advice of people that are either jealous or ignorant or stupid. Let's be honest. A lot of people that are in your ear, what do you think they're going to be in 5 years or 10 years? What do you think they're going to be 20 years from now? Where do you think they're going to be living? How much do you think they're going to be making per year? How much money do you think they're going to be donating to charities? Where do you think they're going to send their kids to school? They're not going to be able to have the same lifestyle as you guys if you push through. But they're sitting here trying to give you their advice. It's absolutely insane. Let me tell you a little story about greatness. I was introduced to a gentleman, very successful. His brother was very successful. His father was very successful. And they made a ton of money. They invested $12 million between the three of them, two brothers and the father, to invest in this resort. Within less than a year, they lost it all. So here they are, they go 12 million in a hole, and now they got to make it back, right? They lost all their money, so they got back to their core business, got refocused, re-engaged, and they started to rebuild. And so year after year, they're paying the debt off, paying the debt off, paying the debt off. They finally pay the debt off completely, right? 12 million paid off. Whew! Right? We're in the clear. Now we can start really building again. Within the month of them paying the debt off, one of the brothers, the older brother, got diagnosed with an incurable lung disease. They gave him about a year to live. And that disease, I guess what happens is the lungs start to like cannibalize themselves. The tissue starts to eat itself. And it builds up scar tissue and more and more and more, so much to the point where eventually the scar tissue is greater than the lung capacity, and you just basically suffocate and you die. A very painful death. Statistically, there's an 8% chance of survival. So 8% of everyone that gets diagnosed with this fatal lung disease lives. We don't know how they live, but they live. They have no idea why the 8% live. This gentleman does two things. Okay? He's preparing for the worst, but he's planning for the best. I'm going to say that again. He's preparing for the worst, but he's planning for the best. What's the difference between preparing and planning? He's prepared if something bad happens, but he's planning on surviving. He's planning to succeed. So let's talk about both here. Okay? He's prepared for the fact that if he is not able to beat this disease, that he's going to die and his kids are young. And so what he ended up doing was he made several videos. He made the videos for his kids' graduation days. He made the videos for his kids' wedding days. When you have kids, you'll understand how tough that must have been. So he's preparing for the worst. Every event, every day of significance in his kids' lives as they grew into adults, he had a whole library of videos, just in case he didn't make it. But he was also planning for success. He came up with this crazy idea that if he forced enough air into his lungs, that he could break up the scar tissue. And so every day he would, I don't know if they have these anymore, back in like the 80s they had these heavy jump ropes, a weighted jump rope. And he'd go into his backyard and just jump rope, forcing air into his lungs until he would just puke. Every day he'd do this. So it's not looking good. He's not progressing. But he's got a business. And he's got people that are counting on him. So he tells nobody. During this time, he's going out on sales appointments with his people. And so what he would do, he only worked like 2-3 days a week. He only worked half days because he was physically exhausted. His body just couldn't keep up. But nobody knew. So he tells his sales reps, come over to the house, pick me up, and then we'll go from there. So they come over to his house, and they jump in the Mercedes, or they jump in the NSX, or one of his hot cars. Then they go on a sales appointment. And he'd tell them, hey, I was working real late last night. I'm just really, I'm exhausted. Would you mind if I just close my eyes? Can I just take a nap on the way there? And his reps would be like, oh yeah, no problem. Crash out. So he'd crash out, and then his sales rep would wake him up when they got to the appointment. He'd run the appointment, and on the way back, as they were driving back home, he'd tell him the same thing. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just so exhausted. Would you mind if I just took another nap on the way home? Oh yeah, no problem. Boom, he'd crash out again. He'd get home, walk in, and then sleep through the whole night. But every morning he's out there jumping rope until he pukes. During this time, his business is not doing so hot. Right? They paid off the debt, but things are kind of struggling because he's not in the day-to-day as much anymore because he's sick. When you don't accept the so-called reality of things, when you don't accept what's on the spreadsheet, when you're more focused on the glorious future, where you're going, right, where you believe you're going to go, that does something to the way you operate. It does something the way you think, the way you act, the way you talk, everything. So here he is, he's stacking inventory, he's jumping rope until he pukes. It doesn't look like it's getting any better. And the business starts to turn around, like crazy turnaround. Business is cranking again. Now he's about a year past his diagnosis. He's supposed to die any day. Okay? He goes back to the doctor. They run all the scans. They run all the tests, everything. Doctor comes back in the room and says, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're cured. He's like, what do you mean? He goes, we ran the full scan. There's no scar tissue. I don't know if that was because of the jumping rope. I don't know if that was a mindset thing where his mind literally changed his body chemistry, which I believe in some of that. I don't know if it was an act of a higher power. Depending on what you believe in, you can make all kinds of assumptions. But the point is, to me, what makes that story so compelling is that here you have a guy that he will not accept defeat until it's out of his control. He's controlling everything he can control, and everything he can't control. For him, he's a very strong spiritual person. For him, he put the stuff that he could not control in the hands of a greater power. But that story, it's such a compelling story because it tells you everything you need to know about being successful. It tells you everything you guys need to know about being successful here. The last concept I'll end with kind of sums everything up. There's some of you guys have probably read this book before. It's a very ancient book, and there's a little saying in there, one of the chapters, it says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. And usually when people talk about that line, they focus almost entirely on I shall fear no evil. To me, that's not the most important thing. The most important part of that little sentence right there is the first part. Walking through the valley of the shadow of death. See, I make it a company policy here to where I don't issue camping permits to you to camp out in the valley of the shadow of death and just hang out there, right? You're supposed to walk through it. Whatever you're going through right now, I'm pretty sure is not as drastic as what this guy just told you about went through. Don't be calling me saying, oh, you don't understand, I'm not making any money yet. Imagine what would happen if you had 3 kids and a spouse that were counting on you, and you got diagnosed with an incurable disease where you're just to die a year later. Try that out. Don't even come to me with your pretty little stories. I mean, especially I'll pick on you guys, be a man. Don't be a spineless jellyback wussy. There's nothing worse than a weak man. I'm just saying, as a man, guys, you guys need to man up. Quit being such little wussies. There's going to be a time in your life where you're going to have to go home and look at your future wife if you're not married yet, or look at your future kids if you don't have kids yet. You're going to have to look them in the eye. And they're going to be that mirror I'm talking about. And you're going to look your kid in the eye, or look at your wife in the eye. You're going to have to either say, honey, I did it all for you. Or, yeah, honey, I just couldn't take the rejection of the cold call. My friend Joe Schmo was giving me crap about it, and for not going out to Taco Tuesdays with him anymore, and I couldn't give up that friendship. Oh, where is Joe Schmo? Oh, I don't know, I haven't talked to him for 15 years. But anyway, there are relationships that you have right now, people that are saying negative things towards you, people that are trying to talk you out of it. Mark my words, 5 years from now, you won't even have their email or phone number. 10 years from now, you won't even know anyone that knows where these people are. So you got to build your own life. That's my point. You got to build your own life. This is arguably the most serious, the most critical point in your life right now, because you're making decisions that are going to affect the rest of your life. I want you guys to have that strength inside. I want you to have that inner peace inside where you know who you are, you know what you stand for, you don't make excuses, right? And you can look back at everything you've done and all the struggles you've gone through and say, I'm proud of who I am. You're going to feel good about yourself. And then you can transfer that to your kids. It's the only way you can transfer it to your kids. All right? We'll talk to you Monday. All right?